So let's start now.
Yes.
A very warm welcome to all the participants. And my topic for discussion today is the legal aspects of event management business in India. Now, before we go to the contents, introduction, and the legal issues involved in the event management business, let us first have an animation movie advertising for event management business. Hello? हाँ सर. हेलो. अच्छा ठीक है सर. ठीक. Friends, as we see in that animation movie, that how individual needs, which is related to your culture, your religion, your promotion, your business, everything, as well as social needs, how it turns into an event that is getting celebrated in each and every society, and that is now taking a shape of a business called event management business. Now we can see from the advertisement that it involves lot of money and lot of things to be planned accordingly with time. So accordingly, in the introduction, we see how the event management business has taken shape and is now growing. After that, we for the purpose of law, we have to look to the concept what event management is. Then we will discuss, do we need a law on event management business? Because anybody can do a business of event management, even without incorporation or even without registering a business. But what is the significance of law? Why we need a law on this aspect? Then we will discuss how to choose a suitable business structure for event management in India. So there are several business structures with several objectives and needs that depends on person to person. So how to choose which is the best structure. The next is legal aspects. So there are various legal aspects. There are various laws which gets involved when you are into the business of event management. And what are that? Then we will look into the real life problem based things which comes into the event management business, having legal issues, and what are the problems and how to solve them. After that, we will look into some practicalities, how to form a private company, how to form a partnership firm, and how to form an establishment. These are the very three popular modes in India of forming an event management business. And then we have a question and answer sessions and your feedback. Friends, the size of the Indian event management industry is about 172 million United States dollar. And as we see from the picture, the graph, it is showing it's rising year by year. Now, broadly, the industry caters to personal, organizational, cultural, and leisure event categories, which can be further categorized into social and corporate events. So the industry serves at individual while they're having a social gatherings, and as well as corporates when there are corporate events. So this subcategorization is basically based on the industrial categorization of personal needs, organizational needs, cultural needs. Now the event management industry in India, we can see is at a budding stage and largely unorganized. So there are no specific law which gives a comprehensive picture to the business, but it mostly comprises of self-employed entrepreneurs and housemakers who are involved into this industry. Now the current growth of industry is facilitated by the growing company and household incomes, as well as the increasing number and rate of TV and sports events, reality shows, corporate conferences and awards, etc. So the industry which is supported and facilitated, why this industry is going in a very fast pace, that it is being projected by Event and Entertainment Management Association in their report in September 2017, that it is expected to grow at a rate of 20%, marking 10,000 crores of rupees by the year 2021. With the increase of digitalized India and ease of doing business, there are several things which are facilitating and supporting this industry. The increase in the growing number of companies, the increase in the income structures of the household peoples, TV and sports events, reality shows, these are the things and which boost the industry. As people's income grow, people increase their expenditure on parties, weddings, among other social and personal functions. There are only a few learning centers providing training related to events management. But from the market trend, the centers are likely to become as many as people are becoming aware of the opportunities linked to the industry. So when we see the event management business and industry in India from an Indian perspective, very few write-ups come on the legal issues as well as the training and professional centers related to this business. Now, what is concept management? What is the concept of event management? I hope that from yesterday till today, you have learned a lot about the concept as you are people from MBA. Event management in lay terms, if you can see, that is the application of project management to the creation and development of a small and or large scale personal or corporate events such as festivals, conferences, ceremonies, weddings, formal parties, concerts, or conventions. Now, these different set of activities are involved in event planning, to which we define as a concept of event management. So what it involves is studying the brand, identifying its target audience, devising the event concept, and coordinating the technical aspects before actually launching the event. Suppose a client comes to you, you are an event manager or you are having an event management company, and he asks, can you arrange for a wedding party? You say yes. Can you arrange for a birthday party? You are saying yes. Can you arrange for a corporate event? You are saying yes. So if you are saying yes to multiple events, it suggests that you are not having any specific brandizement with your business, and you are not that expert who can do well. So this is one of the mistakes which many event managers or even managing companies are doing without having any brands to their company. Those who are new or those who are budding as an entrepreneur into the area. Now, the planning process involves first the brandizing of the company, then identifying its target audience, then devising the event concept. And so these are the process before you go or venture into the incorporation of the company. Now, the role of event managers. Event managers plan and organize promotional, business, and social events. It will involve managing the whole process from the planning stage right through to running the event and carrying out the post-event evaluation. So why we need to understand the role of event managers? What is the significance here from the legal aspect? From legal aspect, we can see that even before the event happens, prior to the event, during the event, and post the event, there are legal implications which need to be followed and complied by a event manager. So the role of event manager is primarily hands-on and often involves working as a part of a team. Now, do we need a law on event management business? So when we ask this question, why we need a law on event management? The answer to this question lies with the importance of or the significance of business law. Business law refers to a set of laws that govern the dealings regarding commercial matters, namely business organizations. So business law are basically those laws that deals with commercial matters only, and in specific with the business organizations. Now it encompasses all laws that guide on how to set up a business. So the incorporation of the business, and then how to run it. What will be the procedure for running a business is governed by a law. This includes all laws that govern how to set up, start, manage, run, close, or sell a business. Now it includes, so the second para, if we see that how a business is governed from its inception till its winding up, we see that the entire procedure is governed by law. Now, governed by law means it establishes a standard of practice. If you are complying a law in running a business, it means you are observing a standard of practice. And if you are observing a standard of practice, then nationally as well as internationally, you have very less conflicts or very less issues in running a business. Now, it includes a contract. So basically in India, Indian Contract Act 1872 governs the validity or the formation of ordinary contracts. So there are general principles of contract which are given in section 1 to 72 of the Indian Contract Act are deals with the basic formation of ordinary contracts. There are several contracts, but we need to understand here only ordinary contracts which are governed by Indian Contract Act. Now the law of corporations. The law of corporations here is basically a company law, Shop and Establishment Act, partnership form, and several mercantile laws. Other business organization, commercial papers like financial instruments, income tax law that is governed by Income Tax Act, then secured transactions, intellectual property law, and other transactions and dealings related to the business. So there are gamut of laws which we'll see in the later slides with the help of examples that how legal complications arises and how to solve them. Now, when I say need, I had just explained the significance of business law, but when I am specific to event management business, we see the importance here of compliance with the law or following the law is to first to maintain order, resolve disputes, establish generally accepted standards, protect rights and liberties when it comes to business and its relation to other businesses, government authorities, and the customers. Now it sets the order. The law sets the order for the business. And if there is a conflict of interest between a consumer and the owner of the company or any third person to the company, then how the dispute gets resolved is with the acceptance of the law that involves with the inception of that structure of business. Now it also established the standards. Now these standards are set out by different countries into their commercial and mercantile law, which is a business practice adopted by several countries. And if you accept the very standards laid down in the India, it resembles the same. So it eases the practice of business or doing of business. Now, secondly, it protects the rights and liberties when it comes to business of the business owners and their relation to other businesses, government authorities, and the customers. Now, it helps investors. Investors will have a confidence into a business structure or into a company or into a business organization only when that organization is legally complying with the basic or general business laws of the country. Only then they have a confidence to invest into that structure. Secondly, consumers. Now, consumers also prefer to choose a company or organization if it is fully complying with the law, as it protects their rights and interests, clients and organizations. Now, adopting legal compliance also sets the ethical manner of the structure. Now, it protects the organization from fraud. It also makes them eligible for insurance in case of a loss, indemnification for an unseen events that will happen while you are doing a business. In general, it protects the rights and duties of those who are involved into a business transaction. Now, how to choose a business structure for event management? Now, if you want to establish a business management, the popular modes in India is to incorporate that business structure or that organization. And if you want to incorporate, there will be a sole proprietorship, a partnership, or a public or private company or an establishment. These are the very popular modes, or these are the modes for establishing an event management business. Now, when you want to choose a business structure out of these structures, which are given there for an event management, you have to consider structure's liability. What will be liability of establishing a private company? What liability you have when you want to establish it as an establishment? So why you go for establishment? Why you go for a private limited company? Why you go for a proprietorship? So you have to consider several factors before choosing a structure for you. And these are the liabilities, the funding of that structure, the taxation, and ownership and control of that structure. These are the various factors on the basis of which you choose. Now, best choice demands balancing several factors. So there are numerous factors together into a structure which needs to be balanced, such as the business's nature and objectives. What is the nature and objective of business? Suppose you are starting a business at a local level. Then your organization is a small organization. Then you don't have to look for partners. Then you can go for a sole proprietorship for saving taxes or tax implications, or for ownership. And suppose you are establishing at a state level or at a national level, then it has a different objectives and nature. So degree of control the owner desires, it is shared by different people. Now, amount of capital the business requires. So for incorporating a public company, for incorporation of a private company, for partnership, there are different capital requirements laid down by law. And the available and preferred sources of funding. So if you want to generate funding for your business organization, you have to list it on a stock exchange. And that is possible only in case of companies, not for limited liability partnership or partnership firms, or not for an establishment. Now, tax implications and liabilities the structure will bear. So these are the factors one should choose while deciding a suitable structure for his business. Creating a business plan. So once you create a business plan, that what event you are going to organize or make yourself an expert into that area, after that you have to involve into a process of registering your business as an entity, because any business will convert into a legal entity only after the process of registration. So registration at this stage is very important, because an entrepreneur needs to secure a business name before using it in many other documents and in marketing. So registration process itself give you a name, give you a brand, and that can be used in documentation and marketing. Now in India, one can choose to register a business entity through Ministry of Corporate Affairs or Registrar of Firms. There are many business needs and objectives. So till now, do you have questions, or we move to the legal aspects of event management business in India? Professor Valia, is that audible? Professor Valia?
Yes, sir.
It's okay. I'm audible now. Fine, fine.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's quite audible, and your screen is, we can see your presentation.
Okay, fine. Now I'm moving into the legal aspects of event management business in India. Now, the first thing, as into the process, we see that it involves incorporation or registering your structure into a legal entity. How you get a legal entity of your business? If one chooses to incorporate an events management business as a partnership, he or she shall need to be aware that the
Dr.
formation
Vivek,
will be governed by 32. So as I told you, you can register yourself as a company, as a partnership firm, as a establishment. Now, what will partnership firm 32? Yes, yes, yes. I am audible.
yeah, you're audible, but in between your voice was breaking. So
Okay,
just
now it's fine.
now it's clear.
Now it's clear. Okay, fine. The screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Now, if you choose to form a limited liability partnership, then it is governed by Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008, which governs and regulates limited liability partnership firms. And if you want to form a company, it is governed by Companies Act 2013. Earlier, it was 1956. Or if you don't want to incorporate your event management business and you chooses a partnership structure, then what will be the issues, legal issues, or what will be the disadvantages of not getting your structure incorporated? Without registering and being governed, regulated by Indian Partnership Act, a partner cannot litigate the business or any partner to the firm. It means neither the partner can sue you for the losses, nor other person can also sue you as a legal entity, because you are not a registered body. Now, in addition, neither the business nor its partner can sue a third party. Finally, the business cannot arrogate set off against a suit made by a third party. Now, if there are losses or if there are money transactions with a third party, set off is adjusting of that funds with third party by the company or the firm. That cannot be done without having a legal entity or incorporation or registration. Though registration is not compulsory, but if you don't go for a registration, these are the losses which you have to face. Now, one can start and run a business as a limited liability partnership or a company without registering with registrar of companies. In addition, for companies, a certificate of incorporation is required as conclusive evidence for legal existence. So we can see here that if you choose a partnership firm, then in that circumstance, registration is not mandatory as a legal mandate, but it has its own advantages, and that is why people go for registration. But if you choose a limited liability partnership or a company and you don't register that with the registrar of companies, then you cannot run a business. You can run a partnership without registration, the business, but that is not possible in case of a company or a limited liability partnership. For here, the law is mandatory. You have to register it. And through Ministry of Corporate Affairs, you will get a certificate of incorporation, which will be a legal evidence to prove your legal existence. Now, legal identity and capital requirements. If the entrepreneur chooses to register as firm, he or she needs to understand the firm is not a separate entity from its partners and that it cannot be listed on the stock exchange. So in case of partnership firms, the Partnership Act says the liability of partners are joint and several. So the firm is not having a separate identity or entity. Partners themselves are jointly and severally responsible. And it cannot be listed on a stock exchange like companies. Now, if you form a limited liability partnership, it is a distinct legal entity under the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008. Means here, the members of that firm who are forming a limited liability partnership under the Act, it is just like a company. It is having a separate identity from its members. But in this case, a difference is that it cannot be listed on a stock exchange. Now, partnership firms do not have perpetual succession since their perpetuity depends on the partner's will, meaning thereby, whenever partners in a partnership firm desires, they can bind up the partnership firm. They can end it up. It is their own consent, wish, and will. Now, in case of LLPs and companies, they are having perpetual succession, and partners and or members may come and go. So, in case of companies and limited liability partnerships, the members, the board of directors, they get changed with time, and new people succeeds their places. The company remains for always in a permanent manner until unless they adopt for a binding up procedure from a Companies Act. Now, another is there are no legal capital requirements if the entrepreneur chooses to start the event management business as partnership firm or LLP. For forming a partnership structure or firm or limited liability partnership, there are no capital requirements. But as a private company, there is a minimum paid up capital of rupees 1 lakh required for incorporation. Then a capital requirement for a public company needs to be rupees 5 lakhs. Now, next aspect, legal aspect we can see from the perspective of structures is the agreements, the deeds and the charters. So when I see a partnership deed, it is a charter of a partnership business structure that describes a scope of operation, partners' rights and duties. So partnership deed is basically a documentation of an agreement where the partners decides the scope of operation of their business and their rights and duties vis-a-vis the firm. In case of LLP, it is an agreement which describes the scope of operation and the rights and duties vis-a-vis the LLPs. Now, between a partnership deed and LLP charter, we can see in partnership deed, it is rights and duties vis-a-vis partners among themselves. But in case of LLP, since LLP is a separate entity from its members, so here the rights and duties of partners vis-a-vis the LLP. A company's charter is its memorandum of association or article of association, which denotes its scope of operation. Now, members in business. How many members are required in all different structures? Now, in case of partnership firm, 1 to 19 more partners, 1 to 19 people. From that, you can choose that the maximum number of partners in a firm will be 19. Now, in case of LLP structure, at least one more partner. It means the minimum 2 people in LLP structures are required as members, but there is no limit on the highest number of members. So there is a cap in case of partnership firm, but in LLP, there is no ceiling as to the maximum number of members. In case of a private company, legally it requires between 2 and 15 members. But in case of a public company, the members, you can have minimum 7 members are required for forming a public company. Now, what are the legal requirements for running this business? So a firm should check to ensure that it has all the required licenses and certificates. I can give examples what kind of licenses or certificates are required in running a business. Now, if possible, the event management firm needs to have business insurance for its employees and the public, especially the people attending the event it organizes and hosts as advisors. So the firm must have an insurance policy, not for the losses the firm will incur, but for the liabilities of the owners of the firm towards their employees, towards the public, which may result from the event. Then especially the people who are attending the events and host as advisors. Ahead of planning and hosting any event, an event management firm must seek a set of licenses for compliance and best practices. Now, apart from planning and hosting event, the firm will have several kinds of licenses from local level to the state level. For example, in an event, if beverages and liquors are to be served, there should be a license for that. For fires and other things, there should be a certificate from the fires department of that place. The local city office from where you are running business have that location, venue, and other things needs to be certified in documentation. For the events hosted in hotels, most hotels give event organizers a list of licenses that they must have and hand over to the hotel at least a day before the event. Hypothetically, we can see or we can imagine every event needs a no objection certificate from additional collector's office, a NOC from fire brigade, NOC from local police station, NOC from traffic police department, police commissioner's note, and Rangbhumi licenses. Now, if an event has a DJ, then the firm needs to add a phonographic performance limited license and a Novex license, except when the music is played by Yasraj Films. Planning and hosting a live performance at an event requires an Indian Performing Rights Society limited licenses. Now, if alcoholic beverages are used in an event, then the management needs to have liquor license. If management uses or plans to use a generator, then a public works department license. If firm plans to use performers from the countries other than India, a foreign artist permission must be obtained. In addition, the firm needs to submit to authorities the documents required by the law, more especially the performers' copies of passport and visa. To get licenses thus described, An event management firm needs to submit to authorities a no objection certificate from the venue's floor plan, and letter of application to various identified licensing departments. So it all depends the nature and objective of the business, the kind of event going to get organized. Accordingly, the certificates required, the NOCs required at the venue and the offices or that located with that location. Different applications from different licensing departments. Letters must have a business entity letterhead and be accompanied with an affidavit on a stamp paper. Now, regarding foreign artists in application, the event management business entity needs to submit to authorities the artist visa and copy of contract with the entity. It is advisable to get the foreign artist on business's visa rather than on employment visa. It is always advisable because here the legal liability is lesser in case if you call them on employment visa. Now, if an event involves paid attendance and sponsors, the firm needs an entertainment tax directorate. Now, what are other legal compliances? These are the compliances dealing with the event management business, which I had told earlier, to deals with their incorporation, registration, tax complications, and documentation. Apart from that, in addition to that, there are laws and regulations specific to the event management industry. So the event management firm must ensure that it does not do anything contrary to India's supreme law, that is the Constitution of India. If anything is done by that industry or business which will be against the fundamental right of an individual, not only fundamental right, but in sense into the spirit of, which is against the spirit of the Constitution, like the religious practice or the faith which is guaranteed under Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, or the reasonable restriction imposed on trade, business, and other things under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. So there must be compliance with the Constitution of India. Then the general business laws must be adhered to ensure compliance and best practices. For instance, the Indian Contract Act of 1872 is applicable on all kinds of agreements which the company enters into with their employees as well as their consumers, as well as their investors or other people. And it includes such guidelines as those specific to contracts. Since the event management industry is largely about contractors, such as between artists and event planners or suppliers and hotels, the Contract Act and newer acts must be followed. So the industry have several contractors. It is the event is being organized and executed by number of people, and each and all, if you see somebody is supplying, taking a contract for supplying food, somebody is taking contract for supplying liquor, somebody is supplying some decoration and other things, all are like independent contractors. So they are independent contractors and they are specific to their expert area of supplying with the demands of the industry, that things. All are governed by the agreements, and that agreements are formulated vis-a-vis the Indian Contract Act. And the newer acts, what would be the newer acts? We will see in the next slide, must be followed. So if one chooses a partnership structure, the Partnership Act would be helpful. Now, apart from that, the new laws are like India experienced a high economic growth in 21st century. So after that, in the year 2002, a Competition Act is passed. Competition Act is passed after repealing MRTP Act, Monopolist Restrictive Trade Practices Act. So any anti-competitive agreement, if a business structure enters into any anti-competitive agreement, that will be invalidated, or that will be legally penalized under the Competition Act of 2002. Now, there is a Limited Liability Act in 2008. So these are the newer acts which are given by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Now, these laws serve to push for sustainable competition in markets, promote free trade, hence protect consumers' interest, and forbid anti-competitive business activities. Now, if the event management firm is a company, it will find Companies Act useful because the company law governs acquisitions and mergers of different companies, shareholding, boardroom decision making, corporate social responsibility. These aspects of a companies are governed by the company's law. Now, other laws apart from that are labor and consumer law. So the labor law, if we see, the firm understands the country's law protects employees as well as employers and consumers. All the stakeholders of the event management business, employee, employer, and consumers, they are being protected by law. Now, employees are protected by Payment of Wages Act of 1936, Payment of Gratuity Act, Payment of Bonus Act, Industrial Dispute and Industrial Employment Act. Now, on the other hand, Indian business laws protect consumers. Consumer Protection Act 1986. Now, this Consumer Protection Act 1986 is completely replaced by a new act, Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now, this new act recognizes the virtual business and online transactions and establishes a central Consumer Protection Authority, which looks into the virtual business structures also. Now, they have dispute redressal forums at 3-tier level, that is local, district level, state level, and national level. So these are things get covered under this act, which protects the interest of consumers. Now, to conclude the legal aspects and the legal applications to the event management business, we can see that India is an emerging market. It is among the biggest and fastest growing economies across the globe today. Accordingly, starting and running any business in India, let alone an event management business, would need investors who can understand some intricate and simple realities unique to the country, including the government's evolving policies, revisions to the existing statutes, and the laws enacted recently. So the investors must have that understanding of government policies and law that are applicable to that country where the business structure is going to get established. Secondly, the process, compliance, best practices, and relevant laws, as we see above, we had discussed, establishes the general laws which governs a business firm in India. And it is very important here to adhere to local laws. In other words, a business entity must obey the laws of the state and city in which it is incorporated and operates. So if we see from a legal perspective, any commercial or business organization is being operated by two sets of laws, one at the level of municipality or at the level of district administration, and one at the central level by the government policies and laws. So both are to be complied, and these forms the gamut of legal aspects for an event management business. Now, we can see some practical issues, some legal issues in event management. We can take some practical problems here and we can see the solutions. Now, suppose paying business taxes. Now, if you do not have your own tax advisor, suppose you establish event management company or firm and you don't have a tax advisor. Now you need to start by reviewing common tax pitfalls, which include things like deductions, specifics, and proper documentation. Now, any business structure or organization, what are the mistakes when it needs to the legal tax compliance or tax compliance by that organization, legally which is required. So if we see that thing in this problem, how there is a lack of proper documentation of the transaction, how the penal consequences from the tax laws will be attracted. The problem is, suppose it is your first year as an event planner, and because you have not had a ton of clients, you forego paying quarterly taxes. Now, at the end of year, your tax preparer or your chartered accountant tells you that the business was responsible for quarterly tax payments or IRS payments. So that responsibility here means the legal responsibility for which you have to pay, or show cause notice will come, or you have to pay with interest the due taxes, or maybe some other penalties, cessation of your structure. Now, solution is, when we see a licensed tax professional speaking with a licensed tax professional to make sure your business is properly set up with the government. So when you want to when your company get incorporated and your business get commenced, you need to have an advice from a licensed tax professional, so that your business will be set up according to the government policies vis-a-vis the tax and commercial structures. And make sure to set aside the proper amount of taxes you will owe from each and every job. So each and every transaction of your business must get documented, and quarterly filing of taxes as required by the Income Tax Act is to be there. Now, get a business license. Now, there are some districts or some places, cities, which will fine or suspend your business activities for not having the right paperwork in order when you are first starting out. The problem is that you get a mysterious letter in the mail from your city's small business office claiming you owe them a large lump sum after neglecting to apply for the proper license. Now, suppose your company is based in Bangalore and head office is in Bangalore, and there are several local offices in India, and you are into the business of event management. Now, if you forget or you by mistake, you had not get proper licenses required for your local offices, then a penalty will be imposed as per the local laws. Now that your local office sends you a mail regarding that for compliance and lump sum amount is demanded. So it is better, the solution is it is better to pay fine immediately and get your business registered at the local office. Get the all licenses required for establishing that local office. From that, your local office should be able to walk you through the process online or over the phone. A little payment upfront now can save you big surprise fees in the future. Now, if you involve with a legal suit here, then your entire local setup establishment will entangle with the litigation process, and you have to face a huge monetary compliances from the local district administration in running a business. Now, the next thing is create the right client contracts. So every event planning contract, you write for a client. So whosoever be your client, you have a separate contractual documentation or an agreement for that. Under that, you should include certain clauses, terms and conditions that cover all your bases in case things go wrong for either party. So contract is basically a mutual is a creation of the law. The rights and duties are created by parties themselves under the contract. So if you are into an agreement, there is a mutual respect for rights and duties that get documented into the terms and conditions of a contract. Now look to the problem here. You are approached by a long-time friend about a large event they would love for your plan because you have a pre-existing relationship or have done business with them before. You figure you might as well avoid the discomfort of asking them to sign anything. Then in the midst of planning the event, something beyond your control goes wrong, and they no longer want to pay you for your time. So this is a very basic and general problem which may arise or which may frequently happens if you lag in arranging the contracts at the inception. of your policy or your business. The solution here is always have a contract in place, always. Not only does it protect your business, it can also set expectations. So when any person approaches you for an event, then the contract letter must be signed by that person and you, which is having a very clear term and conditions for cancellation of that event, or for the non-performance, or for the losses which may arise out of that situation. So if you have that contract and conditions are at place, then it will set the expectation of the party or consumer who is coming to your business or your customers or clients. Now, which your contract also explain the scope of your work. This helps in streamlining the communication if or when issues come up. Now, get ahead of business name disputes. So when you want to register your business structure either as a partnership or as a company or as an establishment, you have to choose for a unique name, which is not being there, which is not, there should be no other such organization or business running on the very same name. This is the requirement of law of incorporation. Now, you make a quick Google search, and after that, finding a unique name will be a very good advice for an event management entrepreneur. It will help him even the ones with out of date. Suppose there is a structure or organization which is now having their websites out of date and they are not into social media. Even then they can claim that you had stole their name or goodwill in the market. That will create a legal complication. So the problem we can see that after registering your business name and receiving your official license, you receive a cease and desist from a company that claims you blatantly copied them. Now here a trademark infringement may also come, or deceptive similarity situation in terms of products and packages may come. So what will be the solution? So before you choose for a name or brand of your company, you have to make a research. And if you do not, and you find yourself in this situation, then you have to again start from beginning, especially if there is a threatening legal action. It is sorry to say that your business name is not worth all you could possibly lose if you went up against them in court. Then you won't save your business name. Now, so whether you are a corporate event planner or a private party planner, having insurance is the most important thing you do to protect not just your business, but your entire career. See, there is a problem that an elderly person trips over a light cable at your event. You had organized an event. Into that, there is an elder person who trips on a light cable. His wrist is broken. And they say that you are responsible for the accident as an organizer or planner. And their insurance contacts you about the hospital bills. Now, insurance company of that person will be into a lawsuit with you for the medical claims of that person who's injured or who is the consumer of that event. Now, the solution is, as most of the items on this list, the situation is taken care of with a little advanced preparation. Find the best insurance for your needs. Just make sure you have it ready to go well before your first event. Now, you should have a comprehensive insurance policy of general liability, which may arise out of an event, which will cover all such losses. Now, prepare for event cancellation. You might find yourself in the middle of a messy dispute if you or your client decide not to follow with an event. For example, after planning a wedding the past 6 months, your client tells you they have run out of money and are going to postpone the ceremony for an undetermined amount of time. They also cannot afford to pay you for the work you have already done. Now here we can see that cancellation of event could be out of anything, any unforeseen event that may happen with your company or that may happen with that person or with your client that results into the cancellations. You have a very clear terms and conditions for cancellation of the event. What would be the financial liabilities for the clients who are postponing the events or who are canceling the events once they book the event? So cancellation terms should always be clearly laid out in the contracts, which cover your basis by making sure to include all your policies for if they, the venue, or even you decide to cancel. What will be the liabilities and the financial losses, how it will be recovered. So these are the legal issues that deals with event management business. There are more issues, there are more problems, and there are solutions for that. Now, as we see, we had already discussed how to choose a suitable business structure and what are the factors which we look into for choosing that. So critically, you can see in the Indian perspective, when we are choosing, we are to be concerned with the taxation aspect because the business owners who desires to report losses and profit of their business on their personal tax returns and who are taxed on the net earnings from the company need to select pass-through entity. This include partnership, sole proprietorship, and LLC in India. The owner who needs to utilize a corporate structure to take advantage of corporate tax rate should go with C corporation, corporate or companies corporation, or sole corporation business structure. Now, risk is that the another factor is risk. A business is always risky, and owners should consider opting for a business structure capable of securing their personal and valuable assets from the business responsibilities. A corporation or LLC can insulate the personal assets of the owner from the business litigation and creditors. Now, the third factor is complexity. So, limited liability companies and corporations need detailed record keeping and adherence to an extensive list of needs to control limited liability protection. Now, third is control. So the level of control the business owner has towards the business directly impacts the company's registration structure. For example, if business owner who adheres to manage the company as an individual, then you should be ready to stay a sole trader. This is about ownership or control. Now, complexity and cost of legal structure and formation. So there are various legal structures having an ideal set of complications, procedures, and cost. So a structure having a sole trader require few reporting needs. So if you go for a sole proprietorship, very less documentation, very less reporting needs are required. But if you look for a very complicated structure like trust hold requirements, then it requires strict reporting. And you should set up an accountant or solicitor for that. Now, tax implication, as we discussed above. So the structure holds essential effects on tax amount you pay. A sole trader can enjoy tax benefits by claiming on a personal tax return. So if you are a sole trader, you can save tax benefits by claiming as a personal tax return. But as a trust, it does not need to pay income tax on profits. So as we see, the registration of event management business, it can be into a form of company. It should be registered under the Companies Act. And for partnership, it is to be under the Indian Partnership. And for establishment, it should be governed by Shops and Establishment Act. So just like any other company, these are the registration process, rules and procedures to start a company. Now, 2013 Companies Act, as well as other laws of incorporation in India dealing with business structure, you need to register for taxes. Now that is income tax with the TDS, the service tax, entertainment tax, You need to get a PAN card. You need to get a TAN card for TDS returns. You have to register for GST for into the services. These are the tax requirements. Now, the next topic in the business structure, we are look into the formation of a company, how a company is to be formed. What are the legal requirements for forming a company in India? Now, older position is that if you want to incorporate your business structure as a company, then they are governed by Companies Act of 1956, which deals with both public and private companies. Now, under the 2013 Act, a new process of procedure for registration is given, which is a four-step procedure. And online, in 1 week, you can get a certificate of incorporation by following these four steps. The first is obtaining DSC, Digital Signature Certificate. Second is obtaining Director Identification Number. Third is filing a new user registration. And fourth is e-form incorporating the company. So the most commonly used corporate form is the limited company. Unlimited companies being relatively uncommon. So we can see mostly the number of companies, they are private limited companies. Now, a company is formed by registering the memorandum and articles of association with the state registrar of companies of the state in which the main office is to be located. Now, before incorporating your company as a public or private company, you need to have approval of the name of a company. Now, for that, you have to file an application for approval with the registrar of companies in the state or union territory where you want to have the registered office is maintained. This approval is subject to conditions. For example, there should not be an existing company by the same name. So the name of your company should be unique. That is to be ensured. So in case of private company, it is to be written private limited company. And limited in the case, it is in case of a public company. So it should be full word limited when it is in case of a public company. While in case of private, it is private LTD, it should be written there, private limited. The application should mention at least 4 suitable names of the proposed company in order of preference. So in case of private company, the name of company end with the words private limited as the last words. Now, it generally, the registrar of companies informs applicant that within 7 days from date of submission, whether or not any of the names applied for is available. Once a name is approved, it is valid for a period of 6 months, within which memorandum and article of association is to be filed. So what is memorandum of association? Memorandum of association is a document that sets the constitution of company. It contains the objective, scope of activity, relationship of their members with the outside world, and articles of association are rules and regulations of the company for management of its internal affairs. Now, the registrar of companies will give the certificate of incorporation after the required documents are presented with the requisite fees, which is scaled according to the share capital of the company, as stated in memorandum. So a private company can commence business after it receives the certificate of incorporation, while a public company has the option of inviting public for subscription to its shares capital. Accordingly, the company has to issue a prospectus which provides information about the company to potential investors. So the Companies Act specifies the information to be contained in the prospectus. The prospectus to be filed with ROC before it can be issued to public. In case company decides not to approach the public for necessary capital and obtains it privately, it can file a statement in lieu of prospectus with the ROC. So both the options are available in case of public company. On fulfillment of these requirements, the registrar of companies issues the certificate of commencement of business to public company. The company can commence business immediately after it receives this certificate. So the certificate of incorporation. After duly stamped memorandum and article of association documents, forms filed, fees requisite paid, the ROC scrutinizes documents. necessary instructions are given, authorized persons making corrections, and then ROC issues the certificate of incorporation. So these are the documents which are to be filed for memorandum and article of association. Declaration of compliance, notice of situation of registered office, particulars of directors, manager or secretary, authority, ROC letter. These are the tax registration compliance, like business liable for income tax must obtain a tax identification card and number known as PAN and from the revenue department. In addition to this, business liable to withhold tax must necessarily obtain a tax deduction amount, TAN number for employees. So the PAN and TAN indicates all returns documents filed with the revenue department. PAN is also required to be stated in various other documents, such as the documents pertaining to sale or purchase of any immovable property exceeding rupees 5 lakh. Sale or purchase of a motor vehicle time deposit exceeding rupees 5 lakh. Contract for sale or purchase of securities, to name a few. Now, these are the enclosures, the various forms which are required while filing for incorporation of a company. Now, these are the types of companies which you can register in India: sole proprietorship, one-person company, partnership company, limited liability company, private limited company, and the Companies Act 2013 governs the incorporation. Sole proprietorship is the easiest form of company registration in India. So one person manages sole ownership, a sole proprietor. If you are looking to have full control of your business, this option serves ideal. Key advantage of the sole proprietorship: no government registration required, no compliance to be fulfilled, no government regulatory paperwork, all profits earned are yours. You do not require double taxation, pay income tax return only on your income. So these are the benefits of choosing a sole proprietorship. Then these are the benefits for choosing a private limited company. The liability of company's owner with respect to company's debt is only limited to his shares. Shares of company are easily transferable to other persons. Company can issue debentures and receive funds from public platforms. There are tax benefits. The percentage of applied tax is also lesser as compared to types of company registrations. Now, the process, how to form a private limited company. So the registration requires DIN, Directors Identification Numbers, PAN card, Aadhaar card, bank statement. So after a name registration application, then you have to move to Memorandum of Association and Article of Association, as we discussed above. And then online process is there with these documentations. So partnership form, these are the details which is required in a partnership deed: name and address of partners, name and address of firm, starting date of firm, capital each partner has invested, profit share ratio, rights of each partner, duties and obligations of each partner, other clauses. So these are the registration requirements for a partnership firm. A partnership is one of the most important forms of a business organization, where two or more people come together to form a business and divide the profits into agreed ratio. Now, the basic steps for registration and requirements, such as the existence of a partnership deed, are common to all. Now, the conceptual framework is that it is a form of business entity, which I had already discussed. Now, Section 4 of Partnership Act defines partnership as the relation between persons who are agreed to share the profits of a business carried on by all or any of them acting for all. So this is the definition of partnership, which itself reflects the joint and several liability concept under this structure. Who makes decision in partnership business? Now, there is no separation of ownership and control. So the partners act in confidence to each other, and one partner act is binding on another. Partners monitor and manage the firm without any interference. The decision making in case of firm is relatively a fast process in comparison to that of a private limited company, or limited liability partnership. So this is an edge, or this is a benefit or unique selling property of a partnership firm. That's why you go for a partnership firm if these are the needs and objectives. Now the minimum requirements are that 2 persons and for any firm and 20 partners for a banking business or legal business earning profit. Now, a partnership agreement can be applied by 2 or more who are qualified to contract for business plan. Every person having age of majority according to law, a person not suspended from contracting by any law is also eligible to form a partnership. No foreign direct investment is allowed. No minimum capital is required, and unique name of the firm should be unique. So documentation, unique name for firm, drafting a deed, payment of stamp duty, entry of statement. After this, it is required to put registered after the firm's name. Then it is followed by a PAN number from the tax department. So these are the requirements in case of a partnership firm incorporation. Now, the next concept is establishment. So what is establishment? So under the Shop and Establishment Act, a shop, a commercial establishment, residential hotel, restaurant, eating house, theater, or other places of public amusement or entertainment to which this act applies and includes such other establishment as government notify, declared to be an establishment for the purpose of this act. Now, an event management business can be structured according to an establishment. So why you choose to structure your business as establishment? What are the needs and what are the benefits for registering it as establishment? So under the Act, the license registration is a basic license that provides an entity with legal identity in terms of carrying on a trade, business, or profession. This license makes an entity a registered business establishment in eyes of law and does not face any difficulty at time of inspections or government service. Now, what are the procedure for registration? So you have to file an application within 30 days of the commencement of business, visiting the office of Department of Labor of the state, or by visiting the government website of the Department of Labor of the state. Now, Shop and Establishment Act are basically state laws and having different states having different legal compliances for establishments. Step 2 is after submitting application to Chief Inspector along the required documents, the government fees to be deposited, which varies from state to state. Now, what are the documents? Photograph of the establishment, name board, certificate of incorporation, memorandum of association, articles, limited liability partnership agreement in case of company and LLP respectively, copy of PAN card of the shop or establishment, identity proof of owner, voter ID. So these are the other requirements. Address of shop along with NOC if rented, then copy of partners, consent or board resolution, the list of partners or directors with their identity and proof, details of existing employees, major details that this application form carries, name of the establishment, category of establishment, address. So these are the other requirements or documentation in case of establishment. After that, the third step in registration is that the Chief Inspector will register the establishment in the Register of Establishments on the satisfaction with correctness of details and shall issue the certificate. So what are the points to consider here for registration? The certificate should display at the shop and should be renewed at prescribed intervals. Any change in the certificate should be notified to Chief Inspector. Failure to obtain a license under the Act shall attract a penalty. If any person registered under this Act carries on trade or business near any shop or establishment either before opening hours of the establishment or after closing hours of the establishment on a closed day, that person shall be deemed to be the occupier of such shop or establishment who has kept it open before opening hours or after closing hours on closed day and shall liable to be punished. So whosoever be the occupier of that establishment will be punished for opening it in odd hours. So now these are the finer details of this topic, legal aspects of event management business. Now, please, you may ask for your questions.
Okay, anybody for questions, please? Any doubts? Anybody volunteering for questions? Anything that you need to ask regarding any laws, any act that has been covered? Okay, Dr. Vivek sir, आपको nice session बोल रहे हैं, one of the participants.
Thank you so much.
और कोई? Anyone else? Okay, you've given a lot of information.
This is Dr. Anuradha. Can I ask something?
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to know if there is any minimum financial, like when you start a business, you should have some funds with you. So is there any requirement that one person should have this much of fund to start a business? Own capital, borrowed capital in the sort that form?
A very good question, ma'am. As I suggested in the topic, how to choose a suitable business structure in case of event management business, the capital requirements are only vis-a-vis the companies and corporation. But once when you opt for a partnership firm, there is no minimum or a maximum capital requirements as laid down by the law.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to go for a query? Okay. Okay, sir, आपके लिख रहे हैं, it's really nice information, very informative session. All aspects clearly explained. Okay, Ms. Palak, Ms. Palak, I request you to please provide us with the feedback. Okay,
Thank you.
One second. There's a question. What are the opportunities for the students of this subject in this COVID scenario?
See, as far as the legal event management business and legal aspects, if we look from the perspective of law and the contracts in the COVID scenario, many of the event management businesses have to face either the cancellation or postponement of their events, which has several financial liabilities, and that can be issues of legal conflicts, which can be, if you look to the slides, that anybody who's entering into a business, it should have that in that contract a basis clause which clearly defines the cancellation and the legal liability for the financial losses either to the clients or to the organization in such situations. Now, in the COVID scenario, though we can see that many of the events which are very natural in day-to-day life are not taking place, but still it is going into a different other dimensions.
Okay. Is the query solved? Okay. Ms. Palak, I would like you to provide the feedback, please.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. Sunit Walia, for giving me the opportunity. I express my sincere thanks to Dr. Vivek Dubey for sharing such a useful information and enlighten us with your knowledge about the various aspects and legal aspects of event management, and giving us an in-depth knowledge about the legal implementation which are involved in event management and corporate world, and how to deal with the legal disputes in corporate and various other legal requirements under the business and corporate law, and details knowledge about the legal structure in business. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for your valuable session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Vivek. It was very insightful session. Lots of people are writing in the chat box. If you can see, a very fruitful session and a very informative and nice session by you. Thank you for sparing your time and being a part of this FDP. I give you a big thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity to having a very nice session with all of you on this topic. Thanks a lot.
Okay.